A Plaguelands Media production.
Hey everyone, this is Hugh from Plaguelands Media bringing you another book review. Now, this one actually surprised me quite a bit, if I'm going to be completely honest with you. And the reason is because it's a novelization of a comic book. Not just any comic book, one of the greatest X-Men storylines to ever have been written. I'm talking about Days of Future Past. Now, for those of you that don't know what Days of Future Past is, this was a 2-issue storyline running through Uncanny X-Men 141 and 142 by Chris Claremont, John Byrne, and Terry Austin, which came out in, I believe, I want to say early 80s. I'm going to say 1980 or maybe 1981. Most of you who are watching this will probably never have read the original 2 comics. They were collected in a graphic novel form. That was how I was first introduced to it. But hopefully you have seen the X-Men animated series, where if you haven't, it's on Disney Plus. Please go and watch it. But season 1, episode 11 and 12 kind of did an interpretation of the Days of Future Past storyline, introducing the character of Bishop, one of my all-time favorite mutants. You'll find out later I'm currently reading a Bishop collection, which I will read and review in the future. But you will also remember that in 2014, the Days of Future Past film came out as a sequel to X-Men First Class, which I really loved. Days of Future Past is one of my all-time favorite X-Men stories. It's up there with the Dark Phoenix saga and Fatal Attractions and the Onslaught saga for me. So a lot of nostalgia there. So I was really curious as to how it would read in novel form. Now, Marvel have done this quite a bit. This is old. This is like 2014, I believe. But you can actually get quite a few of these Marvel storylines as novels. I've actually got the Dark Phoenix saga in novel form. I've got the Mutant Genesis omnibus, the X-Men and Avengers, Spider-Man omnibus, a Wolverine omnibus, a Venom omnibus. And I was really, really curious as to how this would read. So for the past few days, I've been away on vacation. I took a couple of books with me. You might have just seen the review of The Hunter, I should say. And this was the other book I took with me. It's fairly substantial. It's about 260 pages. Read it in a day. Absolutely loved it. I kid you not. A fantastic adaptation of the comic. Now, it's been a while since I read the comic, so I don't know how closely it kind of follows along with that, or if the author took liberties. The author, of course, being Alex Irvine. I'm going to talk all about this. So if you don't know what Days of Future Past is, and you don't want this spoiled, go and watch the animated episodes 11 and 12, season 1 of X-Men the Animated. Grab the graphic novel or go and watch the movie. But this is the book. Here is the next episode of... Now, before I get into the story, I would just like to note that there is pictures in this book, really great art. We get it sporadically, not kind of all the time throughout the book. But the book starts in the future. The Sentinels have basically wiped out all mutants. There's only a handful left. The X-Men are gone. Mutants are living in this kind of concentration camp. And The Sentinels are running amok. What are the Sentinels? Giant mutant hunting robots. If you don't know what they are, go and watch X-Men the Animated Series, episodes 1 and 2, Night of the Sentinels, which will tell you everything you need to know about what Sentinels are. So, Kate Pryde, you might know her as Kitty Pryde, as Sprite, as Shadowcat. She's had a lot of names. Is delivering a package for the Sentinels. She is one of the few mutants allowed out of the concentration camp. And along the way, she gets ambushed by these thugs called the Rogues. She is ultimately saved by Wolverine. Wolverine is the only mutant, pardon me, who has not been captured. And the rumor is that he is in Canada with a militia up there. Alpha Flight from Canada has been kind of hidden. We don't really know what's going on with them. But Kitty Pryde can't use her powers because she has an inhibitor collar around her throat. Now, Kitty Pryde's powers is that she can phase. She can phase through objects. She can phase through people. That is her mutant gift. But she can't use it because of her collar. She talks to Wolverine. Wolverine gives her the final piece they need for this device that they're going to use to remove the collars, and she manages to get back to camp safely. In the camp, we discover that the handful of mutants that are left, there is Kate Pryde, Colossus, Rachel Summers, the daughter of Cyclops, Franklin Richards, the son of Reed Richards and Sue Storm. If you're familiar with his character in the comic books, he has the ability to bend reality. He was the little boy in the Onslaught saga who created the new world for the Heroes Reborn thing. Go back and watch my video if you want to know what's going on. And Magneto is alive, but Magneto is in a wheelchair. So the whole plan they have is to basically get the inhibitor collars off. Rachel is going to send Kitty Pryde's or Kate Pryde's mind back to the past to stop the event that they believe led to this horrific future. And that event is the assassination of Senator Kelly by someone, and ultimately the deaths of Charles Xavier and Moira McTaggart. Charles Xavier being the founder of the X-Men, Moira McTaggart being a mutant geneticist. But at this point, no one knows she's a mutant. I don't even think she knows she's a mutant. That was written in the comics much, much later. We then jump to the present day where the Blob has escaped from a maximum security prison, and when the X-Men go there to see if they can help, they are ambushed by the Hellions, who are members of the foot soldiers of the Hellfire Club, which is run by Emma Frost, the White Queen. Now, this is important because they are after Kitty Pryde. And at this point, Kitty Pryde is only 13 years old. The reason they're after her is because she foiled their plans in the Dark Phoenix saga, which I probably should have read before this, but I know the story, so it didn't matter, but there you go. Wolverine, there's Wolverine, Storm, Nightcrawler, and Kitty Pryde are on this mission. Professor X is in Washington, D.C., about to have a summit with Moira McTaggart and a committee hearing, I should say, with Moira McTaggart and Senator Robert Kelly. So they get into a brouhaha. Kitty Pryde goes out there to help and suddenly falls unconscious. And when she wakes up, the mind of the future Kate Pryde is now in the 13-year-old Kitty Pryde's body. After easily defeating the Hellfire Club, the Kate Pryde in the 13-year-old body then tries to explain what is going on. I believe Colossus is with them as well at this point. She tries to explain what is going on. The thing is, in the future, Kitty Pryde and Colossus are married. They'd had a kid, and the kid was killed. So 13-year-old Kitty Pryde, with the mind of future Kitty Pryde, is trying not to tell young Colossus that they're going to get married. At this point, she's just trying to get the story across, and ultimately Storm ends up believing her, and they hightail it to DC to hopefully talk to Professor X, stop the assassination of Senator Kelly. We also find out that 13-year-old Kitty Pryde her mind is now in the body of her older self. So old Colossus is trying to keep the fact that the two of them were married and that they had a kid under wraps to the 13-year-old Kitty Pryde. Their inhibitor collars off. They decide the only way they're going to do this is to get to the Baxter building and shut it down. Now, the reason they want to get to the Baxter building in the future is because that is the focal point of the Sentinels, and the rest of the world have basically said, once all mutants have been wiped out in America, the Sentinels are going to start to go to other parts of the world. We will launch a nuclear strike and we'll just wipe out America. So they're basically trying to stop America being annihilated by nukes. There is a whole big thing of them trying to get to the Baxter building. At the same time, in DC, they meet Professor X. They convince Professor X that what's in Kitty's mind is real. And we find out that the person who is orchestrating the assassination attempt on Senator Kelly is none other than Mystique, being aided by Blob, Pyro, Avalanche, and Destiny. Okay, let's go through some of these. Mystique, shapeshifter. Blob. Once he's there, he can't be moved. He's impervious to attacks, that kind of thing. Pyro can manipulate flame, but he cannot create it himself. Avalanche can create seismic waves in the earth. And Destiny is a precog, meaning she can tell the various paths of the future. Now, this is important because Mystique's whole plan is resting on Destiny's precog abilities. However, now that the mind of the older Kitty Pryde has come from the future back into the past, it blocks Destiny's precognition and she is unsure of the outcome. The Brotherhood of Mutants attacks the Senate hearing. They are trying to kill Senator Kelly, but the X-Men come in and they fight, and it is a fantastically well-written battle that goes on for chapter after chapter after chapter. The whole book takes place over the span of one day, by the way. Just kind of keep that in mind. Senator Kelly gets away. Mystique, under the guise of a police officer, manages to subdue Myra McTaggart and Charles Xavier. The X-Men are going up against the Brotherhood. The Brotherhood have the upper hand and the X-Men have the upper hand. One of those fantastic comic book battles that looks great on a comic page. Reads fantastic, I have to admit. It just reads really, really well. Back in the future, they believe Magneto is dead. Franklin Richards has been killed. Rachel has been shot. So she is dying, but they need her to get the young Kitty's mind back into the past and bring Kitty Pryde back to the future. So there is a lot going on. They attack the Baxter building. Wolverine is the first to fall. A really brutal death scene as well for Wolverine. It's really messed up and absolutely fantastic. Storm goes next. And while this is happening, Kitty Pryde is with Rachel, and Rachel ultimately dies. To get to the Baxter building, they got help from Wolverine's Canadian Army friends, the resistance movement that he had. So Rachel dies and Kitty is left alone. They believe that Magneto died in the camp because he's a cripple now. He fell out of his wheelchair and there was a blast. But it turns out Magneto didn't die. So Colossus goes completely Coco Bananas, fucking batshit Colossus crazy, and just starts wiping out Sentinels left, right, and center as Magneto comes in. And just as Magneto appears, Colossus is put down for good. So Colossus dies. So Kitty Pryde and Magneto are the only two left. Kitty runs to Magneto. Magneto is like, get out of here. I've got this. and basically uses his powers to bring the whole Baxter building down on all of the fucking Sentinels. At this point, we go back to the past where Senator Kelly has escaped. He's in his office and Destiny is there. And Destiny has a crossbow and she's about to kill Senator Kelly. And Kitty Pryde is hiding in the office. And just as Destiny fires the crossbow bolt, Kitty Pryde comes up and takes the crossbow bolt through the collarbone and collapses, and Destiny is apprehended. They manage to take out Destiny, Blob, Avalanche, and Pyro. Mystique, of course, gets away. And Senator Kelly can't understand, because he's so anti-mutant, he just doesn't get why a mutant would save him. And he doesn't realize that, like people, there are good mutants and bad mutants, just like there are good people and bad people. At this point, the future has kind of changed now that they've saved Senator Kelly. So Kate's mind is ripped from 13-year-old Kitty. 13-year-old Kitty is ripped from Kate, and they kind of meet halfway. And Kate apologizes to her younger self for the surprise when she gets back. And when 13-year-old Kitty gets back to her own body, she realizes she's got a crossbow bolt through her collarbone that's kind of very close to her heart. They manage to stabilize her and get everything out. Senator Kelly meets with Xavier later on, and everything kind of gets smoothed out there. However, Kitty Pryde is still wondering, what that possible future is. That possible future still going to come about? At this point as well, she hates the name they gave her, Sprite, so she makes them change it to Shadowcat, which I thought was really cool. At the very end of the book, in the epilogue, we find out that Senator Kelly is meeting with Sebastian Shaw and the President of the United States and another man called Peter Henry Gyrick, which he's the guy that heads up the Sentinel program. So did they really stop the Sentinel program? We don't know. That's the beauty part of this. We don't know what the future is going to hold. However, as they're talking and as they're meeting, we discover that Kitty Pryde is hiding in the corner, phased out, listening to what they're saying, hoping that she can maybe stop whatever is coming if the need should arise in the future. Now, I was completely overwhelmed with how good this book was. Not because of the story. The story is fucking fantastic. The fact that it's a well-written book. It's an easy read, which sometimes that's what you want. You just want an easy read. But most importantly, it just caters to fans. It doesn't go into detail as to who the mutants are and what their powers are. You're expected to know who Wolverine is. You're expected to know what Colossus's power is. You're expected to know who Pyro is. It doesn't go into the unnecessary minutiae, treating it like, oh, we've got to cater to a person who has never picked up an X-Men comic or has no idea who the X-Men are in their life. This is purely fan service, and I fucking appreciate that so much, because that's what you want. You want the fan service sometimes. I look forward to reviewing more of these Marvel books in the future. If you enjoyed this video or any of the other videos we've done, like, subscribe, leave a comment, hit that notification bell. But most importantly, please everybody, stay safe, have a drink. And while you're drinking, read a fucking book, people.